From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. A group of 24 ministers have once again condemned the deteriorating humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip and called for immediate action to combat hunger and starvation. The humanitarian suffering in Gaza has reached unimaginable levels, read a statement signed by the foreign ministers of Australia, Belgium, Canada, Cyprus, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, Japan, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. Famine is unfolding before our eyes. Urgent action is needed now to halt and reverse starvation. Humanitarian space must be protected and aid should never be politicized, the ministers stressed. The statement, which was also signed by European Union figures, criticized restrictive new registration requirements, which it said were preventing international NGOs from distributing aid. We call on the government of Israel to provide authorization for all international NGO aid shipments and to unblock essential humanitarian actors from operating, it read. The signatories called for a ceasefire that can end the war, for hostages to be released, and aid to enter Gaza by land unhindered. In other news, some of the 800 National Guard members deployed by President Donald Trump began arriving at the nation's capital on Tuesday, ramping up after the White House ordered federal forces to take over the city's police department and reduce crime in what the president called, without substantiation, a lawless city. The influx came the morning after Trump announced he would be activating the Guard members and taking over the department. He cited a crime emergency, but referred to the same crime that city officials stress is already falling noticeably. The president holds the legal right to make such moves to a point. The law lets Trump control the police department for a month, but how aggressive the federal presence will be and how it could play out remained open questions as the city's mayor and police chief went to the Justice Department to meet with the Attorney General. The meeting comes a day after Mayor Muriel Bowser said Trump's freshly announced plan to take over the Metropolitan Police Department and call in the National Guard was not a productive step. She calmly laid out the city's case that crime has been dropping steadily and said Trump's perceived state of emergency simply doesn't match the numbers. She also flatly stated that the capital city's hands are tied and that her administration has little choice but to comply. We could contest that, she said, of Trump's definition of a crime emergency, but his authority is pretty broad. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration not to withhold funds from the National Endowment for Democracy. U.S. Judge Dabney Friedrich in Washington ordered the administration to stop withholding funding approved by Congress for the nonprofit that aims to strengthen democratic institutions around the world. He said Monday it was clear the State Department was blocking the money for impermissible policy reasons, and she rejected the department's explanation that it was trying to ensure the endowment had funding for the upcoming year. Before and during litigation, the defendants obstructed routine drawdown requests on money already set aside in the endowment's treasury account, imposed and then abandoned a novel waiver requirement, and delayed the obligation of appropriated funds, she wrote. These actions vitiate any inference that the defendant's concern has been to ensure the endowment's level of funding in the coming fiscal year. Friedrich granted a preliminary injunction sought by the endowment for its remaining 2025 funding, $95 million, or about a third of its annual funding. The State Department did not immediately have comment. And finally, U.S. inflation was unchanged in July as rising prices for some imported goods were balanced by falling gas and grocery prices, leaving overall prices modestly higher than a year ago. Consumer prices rose 2.7% in July from a year earlier, the Labor Department said Tuesday, the same as the previous month and up from a post-pandemic low of 2.3% in April. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core prices rose 3.1%, up from 2.9% in June. Both figures are above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. The new numbers suggest that slowing rent increases and cheaper gas are offsetting some impacts of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs. Many businesses are also likely still absorbing much of the cost of the duties. Tuesday's figures probably reflect some impact from the 10% universal tariff Trump imposed in April, as well as higher duties on countries such as China and Canada. That's the news at this hour. Pennsylvania Equality Project and PEP Radio are participating in Crawford Gives Days 2025, which is our only major fundraising event for the year. For details on how you can contribute, visit the PEP Radio page at paequality.com. If you are watching our news videos on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.